After the pledge, it is customary to have public comment. Anybody who would like to speak, identify yourself for the record with your name and address. Mrs. Hutchison.
Alice Hutchinson, Rockwell Road.
What number?
153 Rockwell Road. I submitted a letter for an appointment to the library board. There is a vacancy on the library board of directors vacated by Bob Cernick, and we've submitted Eileen Freebairn as our suggestion and hope that you'll be able to add it to the agenda. It doesn't seem to be very long to slide her in. She is a former member of the board. She's done a great job on the library board, and she comes with our full recommendation. Thank you.
Anybody else who would like to speak tonight? Mr. Gallant.
David Gallant, 9 Elizabeth Street, Bethel, Connecticut. I just want to congratulate the Board of Selectmen for the job you've done over the past 4 years. You set out with a goal to make Bethel a better place to live. In my mind, you've accomplished that goal. Mr. Burke, you are a leader, and the reason I say you are a leader is because I've been coming to these meetings since 1972, and I have seen leaders that are sitting in that chair make their decisions from people that are sitting in the audience through either hand contact, eye contact. They couldn't make a decision themselves. You have made decisions by yourself without the help of anybody else. And I'm very proud of that. It hurts me over the years to see people sitting there getting information from people sitting in this audience to make a decision. So in my mind, I'm very proud of that. Number 2, there was an article in the paper about somebody being very upset because you ran for a 3rd term. Don't people in this town understand that people are dying in wars, giving their lives, so people can do exactly what you did? You had a will to run for a 3rd time. Instead of people being upset with you, they should have been very proud of you. So I hope that person that was very upset has got over it. Very, very wrong. The next person that takes your chair has to understand it is not about any special interest group in this town that he represents. I congratulate Mr. Knickerbocker, and he now has to understand that he represents not only the education department, but he represents every single individual of this town, young and old. And we must understand that government has to stay within its means, because that's why our country is in trouble now, because the government has not been able to stay within their means. And I understand that there's reasons why. There's reasons people know why. Someday it'll change. So, with that, I got all that's on my mind. Thank you for some public input. Let people speak, whoever is in those chairs up there. Public is so important for governing the town of Bethel, because if a person does not have the right to communicate what's on his mind, then America has really lost its freedom. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Is there anybody else that would like to speak here tonight? Mr. Lawler.
Mark Lawler, 40 Shelley Road. I just received a copy of the proposed term sheet with Bethel Processing and Recycling today. And I took some time just to jot down a few questions and concerns that I have, and I hope that the board will consider them in the event that they make any decision regarding this matter. And I'm not stating now whether I'm in favor or against it. I just think that there's more information that's needed before a decision can be made. So if you can indulge me, I'd like to go forward with some of the comments that I have.
Number 7 on our agenda is the consideration of a request for a proposal for the Bethel transfer station. You have in your possession, gentlemen, a copy of a RFP that has kind of been put forward by Pullman and Conley. I would make a motion to authorize the first selectman to advertise for an RFP for the Bethel transfer station. There's some opportunity to look at this, to get private concerns in with everything that's happened in the garbage business in our area. We are blessed that our forefathers had the foresight to create a transfer station. Bethel and Danbury are the only ones in the whole area that have it. In these economic times, it behooves us, I believe, to look forward into the opportunity to make some money off our transfer station. So that is the purpose of this agenda item. You have the RFP created by Pullman and Conley, the new attorneys that we have put on in a special fashion. Any discussion? Well, do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Motion's been made second.
What's the basis of this really?
We have an opportunity with our transfer station, if you read through this, where we could make money. If we can get somebody to build and operate it for us, and we can make money off it while they run it, and we don't have to pay anybody anything, and they pay us, I think it's a wise opportunity for the town of Bethel from an income source. For a point of information,
by the town, or?
It would be managed by, if you read through your proposal, which is the RFP, it would be managed basically by an independent contractor on leases. I think would be the best way to do it. It's been something that's been kicking around for a couple of years. And with everything that's happened in the Danbury area, I think it behooves the town of Bethel to be independent of the regional situation. We have a rail siding. We have a cap on our dump for more than 25 years. We have a prime situation to take advantage of that. If we can make $1 a ton, $2 a ton, at this point that enterprise program is losing a couple $100,000 a year. That's what it costs us, even though we sell permits and we charge 16 cents a pound. We are in deficit, and we are constantly in deficit, and it's our obligation as a Board of Selectmen to bring in revenue to this community to ease the burden on our citizens. And this is a way to do it. Over the next 6 months, you'll see more ventures that will come forward for a money-making opportunity for the residents of the town.
So the RFPs would, this would all be handled by the attorney?
It would have to be handled by the attorney that has created it, through the selectmen, as the motion still states. And in here, you'll notice that the basically it will be administered by the town engineer, the first selectman, and the controller of the town.
If as this goes out, if there is someone that applies, who is authorized to?
You have a procurement committee here.
So it doesn't come back to the Board of Selectmen?
It would come back for discussion, but not for approval. Oh no, it would come back for approval. It goes the approval. The first step is the approval of the procurement committee. Of course, it would be run through the controller, the selectman, and the engineer, and then it would be run through the procurement committee, which consists of the controller, the purchasing agent, and the selectman, and then it comes back for final approval from the Board of Selectmen. So there's steps all the way through.
Okay.
Nobody's walking away with their finger in the pie. No more blackbirds and pies. what's the old nursery rhyme? Bob Black Sheep, so many blackbirds in a pie or something?
Orange
You know,
money.
wool and pie.
Well, I don't know. I knew it when I was 6. I've lost it since then.
So
Mothers and grandmothers never forget.
there's no financial commitment on this by the
Nothing at all.
town.
None
In other words,
whatsoever.
the developer, it's all in his...
If somebody wants to do this,
Yes.
read your RFP.
Right. That's
stuff is back
what I'm
left
just
and
doing right here.
This is all about...
This is a proposal, basically a concept.
Does there have to be, can I ask one other question? Because this team tends to be one of those things that all of a sudden people here are, expanding on the dump. And is there then a public hearing if there is someone that then applies that wants to expand or take over the transfer?
There is a whole procedure that is involved. I've been in contact with Mr. Hoffman from the Pullman and Conley law firm, who is an environmental and specializes in this kind of, that's his nook of law. He's located in the Hartford headquarters of Pullman and Conley, and we've had long discussions. We've had him and used him in the past for the Public Utilities Commission on a situation we had in Stony Hill, and he's more than capable, and they would handle things for us. I don't pretend to know all the legalities, but it will be explained as we go forward. Anything that happens will be documented. Everything is open to the air, as it has been for 3.5 years, and so shall continue until December 7th of 2007. If the federal government and the state government would follow suit, take the abuse that the Danbury News Times has given me with a laugh.
That's what we're here for.
Somebody's got to do it. It's a
Right.
tough job. It's not all of you, it's just some of you, and they're gone now. Any more conversation? Comments? Questions? I will move the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Are there any opposed? Let the record show that you may.
I took some time just to jot down a few questions and concerns that I have, and I hope that the board would consider them in the event that they make any decision regarding this matter. And I'm not stating now whether I'm in favor or against it. I just think that there's more information that's needed before a decision can be made. So if you can indulge me, I'd like to go forward with some of the comments that I have. The first is, I don't believe that the proposal that's been submitted by, and I'm going to use the term BPR, in May of 2009 has been given to all the selectmen. I don't understand how the selectmen could be put in charge of having to make decisions, and yet they haven't seen the proposal. At least I know one selectman that has not seen it. I would think that for the Board of Selectmen making a decision such as this to expand the transfer station, that all the selectmen should have been presented copies of all proposals for a fair decision and review. It's my understanding that there was another proposal that was submitted to, and I don't believe at least one of the selectmen has received a second proposal yet. I understand that what's been submitted is an outline for a formal contract, but what the Board of Selectmen have tonight is a simple agreement to agree. I'm not sure where the consideration is that binds the parties regarding it, and I'm concerned that after negotiation between the parties, what happens if there's no meeting of the minds? Will this agreement result in the town being placed in a position of having to defend itself should BPR decide to litigate this matter? The agreement to agree states that permits are to be primarily prepared by BPR. Are there any other permits that the town might be responsible to prepare? If so, who's going to pay for the town's manpower and cost outlay to prepare the permits? There is a list of minimum permits. What other permits might there be? The agreement to agree states that BPR is to construct necessary improvements in accordance with its conceptual site plan dated May 15, 2009. I don't understand why the town delayed 6 months to respond to the proposal and only 3 weeks before the administration comes to an end. 6 months should have been more than enough time to prepare an actual contract and specifically set forth the actual permit and approvals required, not this agreement to agree. Why is this agreement to agree open-ended as to how much time BPR has to obtain the necessary permits? Suppose it takes 2 years or more to obtain the permits. How long will the town's hands be tied before the town can move on to its next plan of attack for the transfer station? What happens if BPR fails to obtain all the necessary permits? Suppose BPR wishes to appeal any or all of the permit denials. Will it be allowed? How long is the town obligated to wait, probably to its detriment, for these matters to be resolved? Why did the town allow BPR to take control of the facility within 30 days of obtaining all necessary permits and approvals without construction of the improvements? We could have an additional 450 tons of material a day brought to the site without the necessary improvements to handle the same. Previously in this agreement to agree, it states that BPR will have no obligation to make the improvements until all permits and approvals have been obtained. Can the town, under its agreement with HRRA, have the right to transfer all of its obligations and responsibilities to BPR? I don't know if this matter has been discussed and agreed to by HRRA. Charges for the town's residential customers must be agreed to by BPR and the town. What about the tipping fees of haulers who handle only municipal refuse from Bethel? Are they subject to whatever fees BPR wants to set without town oversight? If so, any charge by BPR will be passed along to the municipal residents, offsetting any benefit to the taxpayers. Has there been any discussion of the problems and the quality of life issues that such an expansion may create for the town's residents? If so, what are those potential problems? How have they been dealt with? How will our highway department handle the additional truck traffic of up to an additional 450 tons a day over the town's roads? Why is there no mention in this agreement to agree as to what construction material will be allowed onto the site and or where the material will come from? We must assume that the town will have no say concerning the same. How many town employees are presently employed at the transfer station? If more than one, what will happen to their positions? Are they going to be laid off, retired, transferred to other departments? Will BPR be required to hire those employees? I do not see anything in the agreement to agree concerning the same, except that one employee will handle local residents' refuse and recycling. Obviously, this means the leasing of the town's property, which would require a town meeting approval. How long is it going to take to prepare a formal contract for presentation to the town? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your input. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Mr. Straight.
Richard Straighton, 7 Codfish Hill. I don't have a list like Marty did, but I have a few questions also. My question is that there's been really no
Rich,
public...
it's not a question and answer period, it's public comment period.
Right. All right. There's been really no public hearings or other public input on this matter, and there's been 6 months. It's been since May that this was discussed before. I really urge the Board of Selectmen to not make a decision on this proposal this evening. I think there's much more information that needs to be put out to the townspeople before any proposal is finalized. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your input. Minutes of the meeting.
Could we add another item to the agenda? I'd like to make a motion that we add to the agenda the appointment of the vacancy of the library board. Do you have a second?
Before I allow you to have a second, let me call this piece of information to your attention.
Okay.
Mrs. Freeburn is a Democrat. Mr. Cernick was not appointed to the library board as a Democrat. He was appointed, were you, excuse me for asking, were you pro-Bethel or unaffiliated? Were you unaffiliated? Therefore, an unaffiliated voter by our charter has to be appointed, not a Democrat.
Mr. Hagan, could you review that for me?
I would have to review that. Mr. Cernick was unaffiliated at the time of his appointment. I would want to review it and report back to you.
Does Mr. Clary have a second on his motion?
Do you have the charter with you?
I do.
I believe it's very specific in there, Bill.
appointed position.
Yes.
Yes.
Any vacancy on any appointed board or commission from whatever cause arising shall be filled by appointment by the Board of Selectmen for the unexpired portion of the term vacated, in accordance with C 3-3. Such vacancy has not been filled by the Board of Selectmen within 60 days. The remaining members of such board or commission shall fill such vacancy. Any such vacancy shall be filled by the appointment of a member of the same political party as the person vacating the office, in the event that said person was affiliated with a political party.
And he was unaffiliated.
But it doesn't say you can put an affiliated person in
No, it
place
says if
of
he
an
has to be
unaffiliated.
affiliated to make the difference. Right here, he's unaffiliated, so it does not make a difference.
In the event that said person whose position is being filled was affiliated with a political party.
Right? And he was not.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. This is the only appointment. If now, I will move to have it added to the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The record shows 2-1. Will be added to the agenda under item number 4. First Selectmen's report. Today, 2 days ago, we were our bond rating changed. It went from a AA to a AA plus, which became very effective today. Major reasons for that is because of the healthiness of our fund balance. And over the last 10 years, the steady growth and the monitoring and watching of our fund balance, keeping it intact. Today we went out to bond for the high school, the sewer project, and $3 million in rollover notes. Our $3 million in rollover notes came in at a rate of 0.57, which is remarkable. The sewer project bonding, some $12 million, I believe, came in at 3.77%. And the high school came in at 3.79%, 3.8%. That should be a substantial savings to the town this year and this year alone, in the neighborhood of $400,000. The important part of that is to leave it in the general fund. The next administration will have to make that choice. But once again, through prudent fiscal responsibility, we were very successful. This town owes a huge debt of thanks to Mr. Barry Carina, who has despite whoever he had in the front office or whoever he had on Board of Finances, has maintained and worked extremely hard for the town. If the town had medals to give out, before I left office, I would give them the highest allowable medal that would be awarded in the town of Bethel. Thank you doesn't seem appropriate, but the man's done a tremendous job. We've taken advantage 3 times in my administration of refinancing. We were lucky with the timing. We are leaving Bethel with a $6 million general fund that will be added to before we leave office. That's something to be accoladed. Anybody else have anything to say? If not, I'll move along. Old business, we have none.
And one more thing, since you're still on the selecting report, I had a question. What's the latest on the South Street Firehouse?
Mr. Morawski, what's the latest on the South Street Firehouse?
The latest on the South Street Firehouse, it's we have a contractor that is not responsive. They've told us now that the elevator inspection will occur on December 1st. It's supposed to occur this Monday. They keep pushing things along and issuing excuses. I think that they're out of money. I think that they've got a lot of subcontractors chasing them. We're trying to work with them and the bonding company and their attorney, our attorney, to bring this construction to the construction part of it to a close, so we can sort through those. We went through the change orders today. There's hardly anything of note. It's really just a matter of the contractor has to pay subs, get them back on site, to do their work, and we can send them back.
What's the town's exposure?
We have none with the contractors, and we still owe and have all the retainage on the general.
We still have retainage. We released part of the retainage in order to...
Under advice of attorney.
Under advice of counsel on that. And, like I said, the elevator is sitting there ready to be inspected, but we haven't had that final state inspection.
Has Koenig been paid at this point?
I did not talk to them today, but they've been promised payment well over a week ago, and they haven't received it as far as I know.
They don't receive it, then they wait at the state police for a forgery.
The payment bond information. That's how we know that they haven't been paid. They asked for the bond, they said that they would try to contact the bond company. Normally they don't like to go that step, but I'm not sure what happened with this contractor in this job. They certainly didn't live up to the reputation they became. They set a new low for me as far as I'm concerned.
Point of information for you, they were the lowest bidder.
I don't know if it's you, Andy. Where do we stand on Walnut Hill Bridge?
That's the state DOT.
One at Taylor, it's got the 8-ton weight limit on it.
That's right.
Yeah, the DEP has the revised flood management certification calculations, and the last of the revisions, I was just in communication with the contractor because it's taken so long. DOT re-reviewed it and added additional design constraints that had to be met, so we had to help FCA re-modify the plans. And this is all because of the time it took DEP to review the initial flood management certification, which was over 2 years.
What's our exposure to the bridge? We talked at one time, we're going to one lane, and nothing going on?
Well, it's still 8 tons. There's no
change to the 8 tons.
They took away the restriction. They had advised us that we should restrict 1 foot of the west side of the bridge, but they took that away with their last inspection.
Before I go to item number 2, which is consideration of the transfer station, I would remind this board that we do have one more regular meeting. Consideration of the transfer station proposal. Mr. Morawski, please come forward. This is something that we've been working on for about a year.
It's been a while.
And basically where we are with the transfer station is it owes our town general fund roughly $500,000. We run on a regular basis in a deficit between $75,000 and $100,000. It's been in the hands of Pullman and Conley since April of last year, Andy?
I think we got them the RFPs when they came in May. They were
they helped us with the crafting of the RFP, to make sure we addressed everything we needed.
I think I'm covered.
Yeah, you're stealing my thunder.
Well, but I'll let
That's all
you
right.
present.
That's fine.
It was not brought to the board because there was nothing conclusive. Mr. Lee Hoffman, which is probably one of the finest environmental lawyers in the state of Connecticut, is who our lawyer is, who's a member of the Pullman and Connolly group. He finally came back to us last week.
Yeah, it got to a point where I asked him to pull together the terms.
Got to a point where I was throwing things across the room.
And, well, it had been out there for a while. We got their response.
We have a gentleman here tonight who's well aware of what goes on in the garbage business. We have several. But anyway, he's here with a big ear, I'm sure. The town is in a very unique position. We have something that is as rare as teeth on a chicken. A license for a transfer station. There will be no more in the state of Connecticut, as witnessed by the Housatonic Railroad's attempt in Hawleyville. So it's an opportunity for the town to possibly go from a $100,000 deficit with a $500,000 debt to its general fund and no way for it to make up. And tonight we bring it into the mainstream. The people will know about it in a bad economy. We have some 20 days left of service. We may be ready to meet every day to negotiate, to find answers, and to bring it further. With that being said, Mr. Morawski, the stage is now yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm going to read pretty much from the memo just to explain how we got to where we are. And I want to answer some of Marty's questions if I can. He brought up a lot of good points. Some of those will be addressed in the memo I put together for the board. Well, the transfer station has been operating as a budgetary enterprise fund for many years, but it's also been losing money for years, as can be seen in the annual reports. Show an overall debt to the general fund close to $500,000 and an annual deficit between $75,000 and $100,000 per year. And those numbers, you can't continue running deficits like that and expect to stay in business. So the current permit allows for the collection of up to 50 tons per day of municipal solid waste, often referred to as MSW. In an effort to address the debt and persistent financial shortfalls, the town issued a request for proposals in May 2009 to design, construct, and operate an expanded transfer station with a total capacity of 500 tons per day. And this capacity is based on the combined amount of MSW at up to 50 tons per day and construction and demolition debris at 450 tons per day. The RFP sought a developer to work with the town to continue operating the existing facility, handling the so-called mom-and-pop MSW operation, while starting a venture to accept C&D debris. The concept behind this was to take advantage of the fact that Bethel's transfer station is located next to train tracks where a railroad siding could be built and material processed, loaded, and taken away via rail cost-effectively. There is a market for this material, as evidenced by the existing transfer stations in Danbury and Newtown that handle C&D already, with the Newtown transfer station currently in the middle of a controversial plan to expand to 2,000 tons per day at the Hawleyville location. With both of these facilities taking C&D waste from down-county towns already, there are almost certainly a number of trucks using Bethel roads to haul this material to these existing transfer stations, and it's unlikely that there would be a marked increase in traffic of this nature in Bethel as a result of the expansion. The only change would be in the final destination. 2 valid proposals were received back in June of 2009, one from a local firm, Bethel Processing and Recycling, BPR, and the other from Murphy Road Recycling from the South Windsor Enfield area. The proposals and all financial documentation were sent to Pullman and Connolly for their review, and the review by Lee Hoffman is attached to this memo for your review. It's anticipated that the new arrangement will allow the transfer station to become cash positive by lowering the operating costs and bringing in additional money for each ton of C&D debris collected. For example, if there was an average of 200 tons per day, which is based on approximately 20 trips per day of 10 tons each, the town would see $400 per day, $2,000 per week, which equates to $104,000 per year. That's without putting out anything ourselves, no real exposure there. The terms put before you for your consideration are the product of negotiation with BPR beyond the submittal of the proposal and represent compromises on both sides to reach terms that address concerns on both sides, such as the current personnel on the town side and unforeseen cost increases on the BPR side. I recommend the Board of Selectmen continue to move the process forward to a town meeting where the concept of the proposed arrangement can be further discussed and voted on by the people of Bethel. Upon approval of this concept, BPR will begin the permitting process and acquire all necessary state and local permits. Please let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, go ahead.
We have a copy of both responses.
Both proposals?
Yeah.
Now we have the BPR, the Murphy Road one is back in my office.
Shouldn't we have copies?
Here's what I would ask you to do, Ed.
I can make copies of everything.
By tomorrow, let's supply the other two fine selectmen with the opportunity to go over it. We'll deliver them to their houses tomorrow. Or you can come in and pick them up. As we move forward with this, because I fully intend to move forward, I said I had, let me be exact with our time frame. We have 3 weeks of service left. It's very important to consider this, that you know everything about it, and we vote on it one way or another, to send it to the people who are the ultimate authority within the town. My concern would be that if we get to another administration, it may not get to the people. The people are the important thing.
The responsibility is with us to understand that what gets to the people is in the best interest of the town of Bethel. Totally.
Completely.
That's correct. Okay, so we should take that into consideration. We need to review that and look in depth into this. This is a huge act here we're getting involved with. There are responsibilities that the town of Bethel will encumber if there are issues with the materials once it leaves this site. We have to understand that. We have issues with traffic. We have issues with the trestle. We have issues with how long it would even take if Metro North would even just agree to a siding. All these issues, when maybe the most prudent thing is to help assist the town in helping to subsidize part of the transfer station, like we do today. We subsidize the public utilities through water. They owe us well over $500,000 to the general fund that is yet to be paid back, and they are working at it slowly, but we're not getting there. This is not the only area that the town helps subsidize the taxpayers of this town. So we need a lot to go into before we even go forward with anything like this.
Your public utilities, sewer and water, if the programs are continued the way they put forward under this administration, I believe we'll be out of debt in 7 more years. There is, without straining.
We don't know what that is, Bob.
Oh, I do know what.
No, you don't. Not 7 years. You don't know. That's everything.
Kevin,
lines up like dominoes.
You haven't sat on one meeting, and over the last 2 years we put in a new rate structure. We've done several studies.
Yeah.
We're in the process of putting up the tank.
There's a lot of other issues.
We modernized the system considerably.
Yeah.
You still have a lot more to do, and the nitrogen.
But there's a lot here, and to rush 3 weeks is just...
Well, yeah, I'm just clarifying your statement about the public utility.
That's right. And my statement is that we owe the town well over $500,000 today in the public utilities. That's my only statement.
I don't think it's quite that much.
Well, we'll get buried down.
We are addressing that. We did increase the rates of water and sewer. We're climbing out of the hole. Obviously, we're not there yet.
Yep.
And we were well over $1 million when I took office in public utility. We're going the wrong way with our dump. We've been going the wrong way with the dump because we couldn't get everything done. But I have 3 weeks left. It's been brought to your attention, and I'm going to call for a vote tonight. I want to put the information in the hands of the board. I would like it put into them by tomorrow. It'll be delivered. And we'll have another meeting. I will call a special meeting to have more discussion. We will have Mr. Hoffman come down to speak to us. And go forward from there. Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome. I'm sorry, it took as long as it did. We had one
Things take time.
fire after another this year.
The new administration will find out how long things take. Next is
I think I deserve a comment here.
to speak any time at any part of the agenda.
Well, this is part of that agenda. Well, let me be clear right from the beginning that we do have a problem at the recycling center, our recycling center at dump. Nobody likes debt. Nobody likes an increasing debt. If this is an opportunity for us to go forward, I think it's a great idea. But as I looked at this proposal, I'm inclined to agree there's just a lot to be discussed right here. And one of the things that really bothers me is the fact that here we're sitting on the Board of Selectmen. I believe we passed an agreement to have Holman & Conley take a look and develop an RFP back in April. I read in here that we received a conceptual plan dated May 15th. We never received it, never saw it. As a matter of fact, I'm inclined to agree with Kevin. I'd like to see the bids.
You get them tomorrow.
Great. But the underlying thing that's really bothering me here, and I say this with tongue-in-cheek, this is like a last-minute, 11-and-a-half-hour type request for action 3 weeks before a new administration. It's bothersome. Bothersome in the fact that we're sort of acting like a lame duck decision here. The concept is in the right direction. There's no question about this. We've got to do this. To disregard a future administration, I think is wrong. For the following reason. They're going to be saddled with something that, that the three of us have made here, and maybe this is not in the right direction for the town in general, because it's got to be for the people. This impacts really the future of the town, the way we recycle our MSW, our recyclables. There's the other thing that's bothersome in the back of my mind. I've attended these HRRA meetings. I know we've got a contract for recyclables, and I'm guessing at the time, I think it's like 2013. And then 14, fine. And then there's the MSW, which is 2017, 18?
We have nothing with MSW. Solid waste, we don't have anything.
We don't? According to Cheryl Reedy, I remember at a contract...
According to Cheryl Reedy, you got nothing to do with solid waste. It's all about garbage and recyclables.
Yeah, construction and demolition, I understand. That's open, okay.
That's what this is about.
Well, according to this, what I've read, it's the whole 9 yards.
But there's no violation of contract because we would bring it from our facility to Housatonic Regional Authority.
Who's going to bring it? The town?
No. We have the people that are managing our station.
Is that in agreement with HRRA?
Absolutely. It all has to go to them.
I don't know that.
Believe me, we do.
Yeah, Cheryl asked about it after the RFP went in the newspaper, and
Fort Creek, yeah.
yeah, we verified that whoever the developer is will continue to honor the
Because
contracts.
there were statements that there have been significant penalties.
Oh yeah, no. That's-
Sure, there's contractual agreements.
We understood that, and we didn't intend to skirt that process. We weren't trying to create a new situation here. We're just expanding
too
the
many at your
existing transfer
dump.
station.
And you have 2 highway people that are assigned there on a part-time basis. That's why you're running negative. That's why we're behind the 8 ball. So if we take advantage of the people that already have the trucks and let them haul it, and the garbage is still the same garbage that it always is, and the commitment is exactly where it goes, is to HRRA. They could even, whatever HRRA gets, they could circumvent that and probably bring it directly to Halbert with an agreement. See, that all gets worked out down the road with HRRA.
And I think we're liable to HRRA.
We are liable to HRRA.
See, this doesn't talk to me here. This is the reason why I say this is going to... You can't accomplish something like this in 3 weeks.
Well, we're going to start the process, Paul.
We'll see.
We'll see. You're going to get delivered your 2 quotes tomorrow. We're going to make arrangements, have Mr. Hoffman come down here and speak to the Board of Selectmen.
As I said, I'm not opposed to it, but...
Well, I told you what my procedure is going to be, and we have 1 more regular meeting.
Fine.
Number 4, which was your request, Kevin?
Yes.
Which is, what is it?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Eileen Freeburn to the vacancy made by the resignation of Bob Cernick to the Library Board of Directors.
I'll second that for discussion.
You have a motion made and seconded. I would call to the attention that Mrs. Freeburn is a Democrat, and it's an unaffiliated position, and I do not think, I would need a ruling from council, but I do not think that it's valid to put a Democrat in that position. If you intend to go forward with it, it's your wishes. I'm definitely not in favor of it until we go out and try to get... I think an ad should be run in the paper to find out if unaffiliated voters want to sit on that position. It's about time that the 5,000 unaffiliated voters in the town of Bethel have representation. We have tried to do that through this administration, and it's time for upcoming administrations to advertise for that, rather than cater to small 35-member special interest groups called town committees. That's all I have to say. Anybody else have anything to say? Hearing nothing, I'll move the question. All those in favor of the appointment of Mrs. Freeburn to the Library Board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
2 said aye, 1 says no. Council, I would ask for a ruling to find out if in fact Mrs. Freeburn can sit. Once you have given us the ruling, send Mrs. Freeburn a letter, please, if the ruling is such that she can sit.
I, along with David Bond, I more or less mirror a lot of his comments with respect to your 4-year term. Probably someone else here is commenting about your 4-year term, which is apparently coming to an end here. So I would like to just commend you for all your accomplishments during that 4-year term. Apparently the political forces are resisting the acknowledgement of those accomplishments for whatever political reasons, which are petty as far as I'm concerned. But facts cannot be denied that the Burke administration, along with Paul Sackowski, got a lot done. And if you itemize that list, it's an incredible list. And along with that, they ran a very responsive government. When the economy went into a downturn last year, you were the most responsive individual in terms of trying to control spending. So to the point where many people resisted you, and you finally prevailed, and the voters echoed your particular sentiment. You were very responsive, and that's something that I've seen in the last 4 years. You've also been very decisive. When we had a problem with the high school renovation committee and we couldn't decide on the budget, and certain people wanted to go out and start a project and increase the amount that we needed and go to referendum before we actually got budgets. You, despite an extreme amount of criticism from your political opponents, decided to terminate the committee because there was no option at that point, and decided to do the right thing and get the bids first before you went out to get a referendum and get the right amount of money, which is the right thing to do. You practice common sense in all your activities. You were extremely decisive, and for that you got vilified at the end for being decisive. At times you may not have agreed with various factions within the town government or political parties, but that really speaks to your nature. That you don't necessarily kowtow to special interests. That's just not part of your character. And that's a decisive leader as far as I'm concerned. To my political rivals, I must say as the chairman of the Pro-Bethel Party, I'm very proud of the fact that you received 1,305 votes on a third-party line, or shall we say a fourth-party line. And frankly, continue to be rather dismayed and very disappointed with the attitude that the major parties have toward third and fourth parties, relegating them to a second-class status. And in fact, we are not second-class individuals. We are proponents of some of the more progressive ideas that this town has embraced. Splitting the budget was a pro-Bethel initiative 6 years ago. Updating senior tax relief was a pro-Bethel initiative 8 years ago. That was not embraced by the major parties until the grassroots effort was embarked upon to force them to actually open it up after not looking at it for 21 years, if not 27 years. So the third parties and the fourth parties play a very important role in town government. They push agendas that are not extremists. People who accuse Pro-Bethel of being extremists. I challenge anyone to come up with one example of us being extremists. We are not extremists. I've worked with the Democrat Party in prior elections. The Pro-Bethel Party has worked with the Republican Party in the last 2 elections. They've co-opted most of my ideas in their campaigning, and I ran their campaign exclusively 2 years ago. And it's amazing how quickly memories fade when it comes to current scenarios. And it's amazing how quickly people can more or less be very petty. And none of that goes unnoticed by me. And all I can say is this, is that I'm extremely proud of our efforts. It's pretty obvious to me that this town is not united, it is divided, as it should be, because it's a democracy. If the town becomes united politically, that to me spells a big problem. That's not democracy. So I will leave you with this final thought, that I wish the new administration a lot of luck. I hope they are as responsive as the departing administration, and if they are not, they will quickly find out who controls or wags the dog here. And it's not the administration, because if you look at your flow chart, your decision chart, in your annual reports, the electors are at the top of that chart, not the first selectman or the board of selectmen or the board of finance, the electors. And he who fails to understand and realize that reality will suffer during the budget season, especially in these economic difficult times. It becomes extremely important for the new administration to be as responsive as it can be toward maintaining a high level of fiscal accountability and transparency, and to protect the voters at large from any unnecessary and wasteful tax increases and spending increases. And to that I say, it's been a wonderful 4 years, Bob. I'm very proud of you for what you've done. As far as I'm concerned, you have been a model of decisive leadership. And if things don't work out in the next 2 years, I say 2 years comes by very quickly. And for those of you that think that this is the end of the Burke administration, we'll see what happens in 2 years if the current administration falls on its sword and fails to be responsive to the voters. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words and your input. Anybody else that would like to speak? Nobody else wants to speak. I'm going to move the agenda forward. Public input is now closed.